10th of February in this year 2022. Welcome and thank you so much for choosing to join us on yet another very lovely day. It is a Thursday and a very good morning. Cold and cool in Kampala, but Molin Kenyana was just earlier here to tell you and to give you the weather updates for today. Now let's just get into our conversation today, and of course we'll get into the tax education and with an expert here from the Uganda Revenue Authority, Uganda's tax body. And just with me in studios is Miss Hafsa Seguya. You are very welcome, Hafsa Seguya.
Thank you very much.
I am very deliberate on how to pronounce your name because I don't want to call your name Hasifa or Hafswa.
It's Hafsa.
Hafsa.
As simple as that.
Hafsa Seguya. Well,
Exactly.
Maybe just because it's not a very common name.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You are a tax education expert at the Uganda Revenue Authority.
Yes, sir.
You're here with me to talk about two very important things, and this is DTS and Ifrs. Now,
Yes.
these are both acronyms of what do they mean? Let's start with that. DTS.
DTS is basically digital tracking solution.
Okay.
It is a solution that is meant to track and trace particular items that were gazetted by the minister, and we rolled it out on the 1st of November 2019. Started with about 6 items. Then on the 1st of April 2021, we added 2 more items. Then in April, this year, April and May, we are going to add about 5 more items. So apparently we have 13 gazetted items for digital tracking.
And what are items in this case?
When we rolled out on the 1st of November 2019, we started with 6, and that is bottled water, soda, beer, wine, spirits, and cigarettes.
Okay.
So we moved the journey, and April 2021, that is when we came up with sugar and cement. So now we are adding on 5 more items. That is effective April this year. Okay. And that will be cooking oil, vegetable and fruit juice, then other non-alcoholic beverages, and other alcoholic beverages, and fermented beverages.
Okay.
The reason why I say others,
yes, because
on the first list we have non-alcoholic and alcoholic.
Okay.
So now
that's
we are
the
adding
others.
on, exactly.
Because they keep coming in anyway. Yes. And one would actually ask or know, why do you digitalize them in piecemeals? Why wouldn't it be just one blanket thing and say we wake up in the morning and everything there is tracked digitally?
You know, every process is taken in phases. Phases, we have to consume we have to eat what we can consume. So that is why we are taking the community in bits and bits. We can't take it wholesome because we may crash. That is why we are taking it bit by bit and seeing how the rest are performing. Then we can pick others slowly by slowly, because what happens when we gazette an item for stamping, it implies that we have already gazetted it for excise duty as a tax type. So it takes a form of first gazetting it for excise duty, then eventually the stamping comes in later. So that is why we are doing it in bits and pieces.
Okay, and where does that benefit me, a consumer, an everyday mwananchi?
A consumer, the way it benefits you, we are trying to protect you, so that you can consume goods that are not harmful to you. Because we are looking at washing away the counterfeit. Because whenever there is a counterfeit, even its standard is doubted. And we are doing this in liaison with Uganda Bureau of Statistics.
National Bureau of
Statistics.
Standards.
Yes, of standards. So we are trying to see that we harmonize the two. As we are looking at the compliance bit of it, the track and trace, they are basically looking at the counterfeits. So since that we are all government institutions, we are basically trying to see that we harmonize what we are doing to shoot in one goal. As I'm maximizing revenue, I'll have to maximize it on an item that is not a counterfeit. That is authentic to be consumed.
Is counterfeit the same as substandard?
No, not really. Not really. It could be substandard, but it's not a counterfeit. A counterfeit is one imitating exactly what it would have done to seemingly look like the other item. Whereas a substandard could be that item that was initially passed, but its quality is still lacking somewhere. So the two are different.
So what happens after the gazetting? You digitalize, you stamp them.
After the gazetting, then we publicize we first go public. We issue a public notice to let the public know.
Okay.
Those who are dealing in those items, whether local manufacturers, whether importers, they need to know, and we need to give them time. Reason why we give them time, they are in production. They've already stocked, and they've stocked items that don't have stamps. Where are they going to put them? So that is why we say that from 31st March going into April, we are giving them time to sell whatever they have in stock that is not stamped. So that when I'm starting my June, I expect that whatever comes out, exactly, whatever is going to come out of your production line, exactly, whatever you're going to import has a stamp.
Okay. Talk about the objectives of this and whether it has actually achieved the purpose so far, the intended purpose from 2019 when you rolled out.
Definitely it has achieved, because when just even looking at the statistics of the production from the manufacturers, it has grown by about 47% from the manufacturers of the gazetted items. And when you look at the register, way back when we started with the digital tracking solution, that is in 1st November 2019, we had about 107 items. So now we have about 538 register growth. At least we have those number of clients on the register of a digital tracking solution. So that means day by day my register is growing. And ultimately we are basically looking at how are we going to harmonize the way we are dealing with these clients, because we need the taxes, but we need to create a fair competition in the market. Because whenever you allow the counterfeits to come in here and there, then we are distorting the whole thing.
Actually, and I think, Madam Seguya, you've actually answered one very pertinent question here, is sorting and managing competition. Because if I'm going to do the things rightly and genuinely, and HAFSO is coming to counterfeit the product that I've done, and possibly, because we've had these issues where somebody is selling a product at some cost, and another is selling a similar product, but at a much totally much lower. Exactly. And you wonder and say, okay, where are we? And somebody will of course tell you this is a liberalized economy. So if you can buy from HAFSO, then go and buy from
Exactly. That is why we come in with enforcement measures to see that we can enforce such initiatives to be really complied with. Because when I don't enforce it, somebody definitely who is stamping an item, the cost will go a little high because of the cost of the stamp. And one who is not stamping, if there is some smuggling, there is illicit trade, then ultimately the good is going to be a little lower in terms of prices. So competition will be distorted. So that's why when we bring the stamping, we are looking at washing away the smuggling, that illicit trade, to go away the counterfeits and all that. So that at the end of the day, let me get taxes from those that actually can comply.
Okay. One of the biggest challenges that we've also had is, especially now you talk about beverages, you talked about those alcohol, non-alcoholic and stuff like that. And you notice that many of our supermarkets across the country are flooded with much of these juices that we produce, these local juices that we produce, and we give them all these sorts of names. This is what you're talking about. And because ordinarily, what many of us Ugandans would want to see is that certification by UNBS. That once you see the Q mark, that once you see the Q mark, then you know, okay, this thing is allowed to actually be here. Would we even mind to look into the digital tracking stamp for URA? Would that be of anything to us?
Yes, it would be of anything to you, because apparently what we are doing is we already had an app via Google Play Store where you could authenticate the item. But now we want to create only one app where you can get everything and self-serve yourself. Soon it will be available via Google Play Store where you can download Kakasa with DTS. So when you're seated in a hotel and an item is brought to you, you can basically scan through and see whether this particular item is authentic. That's where we are going. To see that you don't even need to call me, you don't even need to go to the website of URA. Once you have that app, it will be well and good, so that you can actually authenticate what you're going to drink. So that is where we are looking, because what you'll notice in supermarkets, we have these beverages there, but the reason we come up at such a time is to make awareness to the public that moving forward, this is where we are going. In case you're dealing in this item, in case you're importing this item, make sure that whatever stocks you have are sold out. Because once we come to 1st June, then we don't expect anything to tell us that, you know, look here, we have not sold this and we are producing, then definitely.
What will happen at that time? Because I'm thinking you've encouraged people to sell them by that time. But what happens, I have stocks and people have not bought them like I thought.
Yes.
And these are not expired products. They are not substandard products, but they do not now have the DTS.
Yes.
What will happen after that time? I'm only thinking in my stock. Will you come and stamp them to authenticate them, or it becomes old stock?
To take them back to the manufacturer.
Ooh.
Then that manufacturer will stamp.
It's not you who does the stamping.
It's not us. What we do is we accredit somebody to avail the stamps to you. And the company availing the stamps is called SICPA. That company is located in Tinda. So we work hand in hand with that company to see that the stamps are availed. So whenever you're dealing in such items, you just visit our portal, go register that particular item, upload a specimen of how you sell it, the packaging bit of it, so that the SICPA can know which kind of stamp to produce. And secondly, we do not want a situation when you go to this vendor and there are no stamps. That is why we tell you, make a forecast. How much are you going to produce within this time? How much do you hope to import within this time? So that the vendor can know and prepare the stamps, waiting for you to come and probably do what? And pay for them. Then
okay, now let's relate them. There is the digital tracking systems or solutions, but yes, we also have the Ifrs. What is Ifrs now?
Electronic fiscal receipting.
Electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing system or solutions. Okay, how do they marry, or how are they different from one another?
What happens with the electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution? It is basically an initiative meant to standardize the way invoices and receipts are issued under business transactions. So basically that is what we are looking at, so that government revenue is not lost. One. Secondly, we issue fair assessments. Thirdly, we fast track the refund claims that you put in. Then lastly, the audit process can become shorter. And what we promise to the public is, sooner or later, if we are all operating on the Ifrs platform, we will provide a pre-filled return. And by the pre-filled return, I am talking about VAT. Because you've been juggling here, when the month ends, you need to put in this and that. You need to hire somebody whom you're going to pay on a monthly basis to ensure that they do the compliance for you. But now we want to help you in the compliance. If I am doing it about 80%, yours is to log in before the 15th. Say if it's a VAT return, log in before the 15th. Ensure that whatever is there, you agree with. If there are few operation expenses that are not there, include them, then send to us.
DTS has got a process that also involves gazetting. How about Ifrs? Because I now know that once you have a DTS on any of your gazetted products, then of course Ifrs is also mandatory for you.
Definitely, when we rolled out Ifrs, what we avail to you are the different channels that you could use when you're using Ifrs. Because under the different channels, we would have system to system. System to system implies that you already had an existing system. I don't want you to abandon it. What I need is to create an interface. Let this system of yours seemingly talk to the URS system as you're transacting, as you're doing your daily businesses. That is where the system integrators will come in and help you do that. Then we have those that cannot afford that. Then we have the web portal. You can go to our normal web portal that is on www.ura.go.ug. Then self-serve yourself. For those who have a few invoices to issue. But when I look at entities like maybe supermarkets and hardwares, I would push them to use a system to system. Because just imagine you're in a queue at a supermarket, then they tell you the system is off. What happens? Won't you transact? Will you chase away the clients? That's not what I want. Because when I tell you to use a system to system, I have the offline mode embedded there, implying that whatever interrupts should not interrupt your transactions. Continue transacting. When the system is back, you just upload whatever you've done on the system. That's the beauty of it. So for these other small entities, we even have the EFDs, the electronic fiscal devices. These are small devices. If you normally go to a supermarket, say you need to buy airtime, that small machine that issues the airtime.
You have them.
So exactly, we have them now. So you just go on a portal and make an application for a device. But the cost is yours.
Of the device?
Yes. The reason why the cost is yours, because at the end of the day, for us, we make them available.
Okay, for me to buy from you.
Exactly. Then get a vendor to provide them. We'll do the services and maintenance at your cost. But at the end of the day, all the costs involved in this will be put forward in your income tax return as business expenses. We will help you to deduct them from whatever sales you have for that particular time.
Okay. You also notice that when we talk about business or when we talk about economics in this country, there is what we call the informal sector.
Yes.
Now informality to us means not known, not anything, but yet again,
not easily traceable.
Not easily traceable whatsoever. But you notice that even those that we call people in the informal sector, they have either this business registered at URSB, they are either registered with the municipal, the town council, or whatever that may be. And majority of them, when we go to transact, they will actually say, are you going to pay VAT or no? Then you will say, Nzasagara VAT. Then they'll either give you a receipt, which is not a VAT receipt, or, and they don't quantify that. How do you manage that with Ifrs now?
That used to happen before Ifrs came. And that is one of the reasons
Ifrs came.
Exactly. Okay. It used to happen because it was at your jurisdiction to say, I don't want this or I want this. But what is happening with Ifrs, if you're VAT registered on our register, it's automatic that you're one of the gazetted clients that have to use Ifrs. So that means that when I come to you, you don't have any choice to ask me. Whatever you push out of the system will have a VAT component. As simple as that.
And now back to informality, not easily traceable. Do these now, the informal sector, which is a very big one, do they now also have VAT? Are they registered for VAT in their informality, as we want to call it?
What is happening with the informal sector, in fact, in 2013-14, we entered into a collaboration with other government agencies, what we call the Taxpayer Register Expansion Program. Uganda Revenue Authority, KCCA within Kampala, and Ministry of Local Government outside Kampala, in the municipal councils and Uganda Registration Services Bureau. The reason we did that is we want services at one-stop point.
One-stop point, yes.
That is why we created 11 one-stop shops within Kampala, then 33 outside Kampala. That's all over the country. Implying that when you get to that one-stop shop, you would expect URSB to be there, register your business name. You expect URA to be there to issue a TIN to you. And by the way, it's now instant. Then you will expect local government to be there, if it's a municipal council, to give you the permission to trade. That's a trading license. So when we are in Kampala, it will be replaced by KCCA. The reason we did that is now we are basically looking at it that it's now in law, by the way. We included it in the law, and it's very clear under the Tax Procedures Code that you're not going to renew any license without a TIN. So when you get a TIN, automatically you've entered my register. So I'm trying to do away with the informality. I am bringing you on board. I need to know you in detail. So that is where we are right now. So we are trying to see that we work together as government agencies, because you may not need me now, but you're needing the other agency. So when I work with them, as we are sharing data, I will know. It's like you're going to pay property rates to say KCCA in Kampala. So I will get that information from KCCA, and I'll marry it with my register here and see, by the time you pay for property rates, that means that space, that accommodation is used for commercial purposes. Then are you registered for rental income tax? This end. So we seemingly use that
So does that mean it's now not very easy for me to just register a business and transact and do anything anyhow without Uganda Revenue Authority knowing where I am and what I'm doing?
Yes, it may be difficult for you, because say you have just registered it. You've gotten a TIN. Then maybe business name.
Jagenda Limited.
Jagenda Limited. Or Jagenda Enterprises.
Jagenda
just a business name,
just a business
not
name.
A limited entity.
Jagenda Enterprises.
Who is going to give you the permission to trade? That is the KCCA within Kampala. They are going to get you without a trading license. They will tell you, please, let's close a bit, come and sort yourself. As you come to sort yourself, so you'll go back to URA to apply for a tin. So we want one action to push you to do the other. So it will lessen even on the enforcement measures I will need to put in force. It even lessens on the manpower I need to put in enforcement. The system will push you to comply.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, just before we take a break, let's talk about the components of Ifrs. Are there specific components of Ifrs that
Definitely, there are components of Ifrs. One, we have the electronic fiscal devices.
Okay, that's one of you talked
Those
about.
Those devices I talked about. We have the invoicing, when you can go via the portal. Then you help yourself. Then we have the electronic dispenser controller. This one is not yet here. We are still finalizing on it, but it's meant to address the issuing of invoices and receipts in those that are dealing in fuel and gas stations. Ultimately, the petrol stations.
The e-licensing, you call it? Invoicing?
Yes. Because when you look at a petrol station, it may be difficult for you to say, I'm at the pump, somebody is fidgeting to write this and that. So what we do, we are coming up with the electronic dispenser controller. So when you stock your fuel, your diesel, your kerosene, your petrol in the reservoir, I put in that chip.
Okay, for
and that chip has a fiscal memory. We'll know that they are 20,000 maybe liters, for example.
In your tanks also.
So whenever at the pump that attendant presses a compressor gun in your car, you say 50,000, he punches it on the machine.
And puts it in there.
It is decreasing your stock, implying that it's going to cause the system to issue that invoice or that receipt in the system. Because if it's fuel, definitely it doesn't have VAT. So it will issue a receipt. So off you go, and I will get it in real time. It relays the information to me in real time.
That's not yet here, you said?
It's not yet here, but we are about to
It's one of the things. Okay.
It's the remaining bit of it because the rest are already here.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll just take a break and return shortly. We'll continue the conversation and we talk about tax education. And the expert in the studios from Uganda Revenue Authority is Miss Seguya Hafsa from URA. Well, we'll take a break and return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Raising voices.
As a mother, my children depend on me to make this world a safer place for them. I'm not afraid to act when I see violence in the home and in my community. I promise to talk to my neighbors and friends about how we can nurture and protect the children.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Ooh, look, the thing goes clink, clink, clink. Woo. Pop, 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 pop. Whoosh, whoosh.
Grab an ice-cold bottle of Pepsi Max today and drink to your bold lifestyle. Enjoy maximum taste with no sugar. Now available at a shop near you. Maximum taste, no sugar.
It's time to teach. Schools are open. In these days of COVID-19, teachers are not only giving knowledge, but protecting themselves and their students from the virus. As a teacher, you must ensure that students follow the set SOPs of always maintaining a distance of 2 meters from others in classrooms, dormitories, entertainment halls, school vans and playgrounds, wearing a washed and clean mask every day that covers their mouths and noses, and regularly washing their hands with soap and water. In addition to that, you must counsel students about stigma related to COVID-19 and discourage them from violence. Any violence against students from classmates, teachers or parents should be reported immediately to a school administrator or senior woman or man teacher for correction and further guidance. Ensuring everyone's safety is key, so make sure students are out of class by the official closing time. Let's share knowledge, not COVID-19. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports, and UNICEF. Stay safe.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, it's Good Morning Uganda Extra. Welcome again. Thank you so much for choosing to be with us here on UBC TV. My name is Jagenda Semakola Zikusoka. We carry on and continue with our conversation, talk about tax education. And with me in studios is Miss Hafsa Seguya from the Uganda Revenue Authority, and specifically from this Department of Education, and first educating us on tax issues. We all need the services, but above all, we need to look to Uganda Revenue Authority to actually get the monies from us, put it in government, and of course give us the services. And here is where we are. We were talking about DTS, and of course when we went for the break we were talking about Ifrs. Yes, we now know the process, or people know how to register for a company. How about registering for Ifrs? How does somebody get registered on Ifrs? How do they get it?
What happens when we rolled out Ifrs, that was on the 1st of July 2020, the registration was online.
Okay.
You just visit our portal, go look for where there is invoicing, start registration. But what we've done to create more ease to our clients, we just went back end and registered whoever is on the VAT registered. We did it automatically. So whoever is VAT registered, by default your Ifrs registered, so that we can save on your time going on the portal, trying to do this and that and all that. So if you're VAT registered and you're listening to the program, know you've already VAT registered. And maybe even those that are coming on afresh right now to probably get VAT registration, as I am giving you the registration, I embed in the Ifrs so that I save your time. I educate you on both of them and say, okay, now you're good to go. You can start on invoicing, do this, these are the do's and don'ts, so that you can start the journey.
Okay. TIN numbers. Let's get to that, because I think everybody or majority of the people have these.
It's a TIN.
TIN. The TIN actually, it can be TIN number. Like it can't be the Democratic Republic, DRC of Congo. We normally make that mistake also,
exactly.
to say the DRC Congo.
Yes.
You know, okay. Talk about the TIN itself. Now, there are business TINs and individual personal TINs.
Exactly.
And people also have issues with these. Which are we talking about?
Basically, first of all, let's start with the TIN. A TIN is definitely a unique number I give you in anticipation that you are going to start business. You have income of whatever nature, be it employment income, be it business income, be it whatever kind of income, rental income, I will give you a TIN. And a TIN is free. Initially, you've been going via the portal and you download an Excel sheet. But what we've done, the beauty in it, we even have an instant TIN, where you just go to the portal, just look for where e-services is, then on your left-hand side, look for TIN registration. For individuals, that is very swift. As you're registering, it's a one-page to fill. As you're completing the page and submitting it, all you need to have is your NIN, the national identification number on that NIN card. Punch it in there, it will auto-populate your details the way you need them, the way you registered. Your names, your phone number, your email, whatever date of birth and all that. So what you need to give us secondly is a source of income. If it's employment, then put it there as employment. Then after you'll submit. Before you leave your machine, the system will have assigned a TIN to you. And in the event that you had an old one and you had forgotten, the system is meant to retrieve the old one and tell you already had a TIN with this number. But what happens after the TIN? Definitely there are obligations and rights. You have a right to be heard, you have a right to be notified, you have a right to a fair assessment and all that. But you have an obligation. That is where the journey starts. My journey starts from there. I'm starting business, what should you do? Record keeping. If you're issuing any transaction in your business, please avail that invoice. Avail that receipt.
Sure.
Then at the end of the day, it will inform you of what kind of return you're going to give back to me. Because I don't want you to guess. Because whenever you guess, that means you're going to pay tax that is not yours. That is why I want you to manage it. Because in Uganda Revenue Authority, we are managing a self-assessment regime, implying that manage your business, then just give back to me in terms of a return. So that you inform me, look here, you Uganda Revenue Authority, in this month, in this half a year, in this year, this is what has happened. in terms of sales, in terms of business expenses, in terms of purchases. So ultimately, this is what I have, say, as a profit. This is what you're going to charge to tax. Okay. It's a chargeable income. But you might have nothing. You have spent more than what you have pushed in. It is still okay. Just paint that picture. Off we go. There won't be any payment, but you'll have done your obligation of giving me the return. Okay. Though it doesn't have any payment, then I wait for you the second session.
Okay. Well, that's okay. Now, with the Ifrs, with the advent of the Ifrs, are we running away from the traditional older cash sell books or receipts vis-a-vis those others? Because this Ifrs tells us that it's an electronic system.
Yes.
And I'm thinking or looking at people who do not know or who do not have electronic management or setting in their own businesses. And we're used to start a business here, go buy receipt books where you do receipt and say, I sold that item and that item and that item, yes, and this is the total. Yes. Are we running away from the traditional old cash sales?
We are not running away from the traditional, but we are improving on it.
Okay. We
are making it better. Are you aware that if you have a cash sale book, you are basically writing what happens if I get misplaced? What happens if a fire comes?
Records go.
So I'm basically putting your record system on this, your record keeping on the system, that whatever happens, we have a backup. You can log in and retrieve. I can log in and retrieve. I am making it better. But I do not say that don't maintain your traditional records. In the event that you feel that you need to, well and good. And secondly, this is an invoicing and receipting platform. You may need to maintain records of your stock because you need to address your stock with records. You need to address other expenses that may not exactly come here. So ultimately, you will do what you've been doing, but my Ifrs is making you a better person at the end of the day because you can retrieve whatever you need, because I'll be saving it in the system wherever you transact.
Well, I'm not a business person myself, but I'll learn these things from you. We've always seen, you've been to roads like NASA and Nkrumah and elsewhere, where you find these ladies, girls, boys, stamping on particular receipt books and of course giving them those serial numbers.
Yes.
And the idea is, I have a booklet that has 100 or 200 pages in it, or receipts actually. Yes. And for audit purposes, these are the receipts that you look at and say, we sold this on against receipt number, this and that.
Yes.
Where is all that in Ifrs now?
Why is all that in Ifrs? Because my Ifrs will assign an invoice number to a transaction. That is called a physical document number. And that is basically that will track. If you say, because even in Ifrs we have reports, that if in the event that you want a sales report, a monthly sales report, you just run it, it will generate. Then you look at what has happened in that particular month. Same applies to our week, same applies to our month, same applies to our year. So that is how it happens. But just imagine you're writing in that book. It disappears tomorrow. What will happen? You're going to go back and print another book and assign it different numbers that even may not correlate to the numbers that were there. Then just imagine you're the business owner. Here I'm basically looking at the business owner. How are you going to track those transactions that are nowhere? They were in a single book that got misplaced. So with my Ifrs, I'm even making it better or simpler for this business owner. Just sit at home, in the comfort of your home, log in on Ifrs. Look at the performance of the different outlets you have. If you have an outlet in Nasana, one in Bweyogerere, just look at what that branch is doing in terms of stocks, in terms of sales, in terms of return inwards, in terms of everything. Look at what it's doing and revenue. Then it will inform you, are the stocks depleted, or can I transfer from one outlet to the other where they are not moving items at the moment? So it basically helps the business owner to make an informed decision. So
Ifrs is a platform of sorts. Is it a software? Is it...
It is an invoicing solution. It's not basically a software. It's not an accounting package.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's like Atari, QuickBooks, and all that. No. But if you have a version that is not pirated of an accounting software, it can integrate with Ifrs. We are looking at those that are legit, not the pirated ones, because when we When we integrate with a pirated one, then at the end of the day, we are going to court. Because that package is somebody's brains. That's intellectual property.
It's intellectual
or somebody
property.
who sat down and thought some years back.
Somebody's patent.
It's a patent. And at the end of the day, whenever you buy, they earn. Whenever you use it, they earn. But just imagine if it's pirated, somebody came up with it somewhere, somehow in their garage and started selling. But with Ifrs, we do not integrate on a package that is not legitimate.
Exactly. We've had issues of internet connections and etc. And we have these problems. Yes. It happens to us during elections where they'll tell you we can't transmit these results because this has happened. It happens in the banks. It happens in quite a number of these. What about in situations where there is that challenge to the system? We've gone to Uganda Revenue Authority and you're trying to transact or do something, then they'll tell you the system is low or down or so. Then you keep rebooting and waiting forever. These issues, what also causes some issues with the person saying, okay, we are not yet there, even when we want to see how to get there.
What happens with issues with internet connection now? What we have done, because we are leveraging more on technology. Let me just give you an example of filing a return. That is why we give you a duration. I'm giving you 15 days. I don't mind at what time you do it. So look at times when the traffic is not high. Then use that time to file, even though you're sending it at midnight.
The system can't
I
be down,
don't
the
mind.
system can't be down for all those days.
Exactly. Just wake up at midnight, at about 2, nobody's on the system. In about 10 minutes, you've sent your transaction. But just because we are used to doing
at
things at the same time, we are used to the 8 to 5, and we think that's the only working time. Now people have resorted to doing things at night. It becomes more safe and more quicker when you're basically transacting. However, when I go back to Ifrs, when I look at my system-to-system integration, we have embedded in an offline mode. This offline mode basically helps you to transact even though the network has a problem. We have the offline mode. You can transact as many as 5,000 transactions before the system goes back. Because when it comes back, automatically try to upload whatever you've done on the Ifrs platform.
Okay.
And it will give you a better whatever. Because when I'm looking at it here, I am basically looking at supermarkets. Because they have queues. I'm looking at a hardware that is busy. So why don't you go on the system to system? But for those that have few invoices to do, then you may use the web portal. That is still okay.
Okay.
Use the web portal.
The EFDs, yes. Are they available? Are they, you talked about them, but are they affordable? And do you have them? And what about those who can't afford them? What do they do? What are the other options?
EFDs are available now with us. And you only need to make an application via the portal online. One single EFD goes for 1.1 million. And as you pay for it, you get it. We have a vendor that will help you to avail it to you, and secondly, to do the maintenances, but at your cost. But whatever cost you incur, definitely you will provide for it in your returns. That look here, URA, in my final return, these are part of the business expenses that happened, including those, then they will be reduced. We call them allowable deductions. They will be reduced on your income, so that at the end of it, I get the actual income that I have to charge to tax, what I would call the chargeable income on my side. So that's the way we are doing it right now.
Okay.
And we also have, because they'll be good for those that, the manufacturers that have vehicles that do route sales. Have you ever seen vehicles in the rural setup going inside there to sell particular items? Those are what I call route sales. Because at the end of it, you will need to invoice. But you're deep down there. At times, even the connection is not clear. You can't work with a laptop. You can't do what. But this device will save that.
Okay.
And even in my informal sector that you started with, my person in Chikubo, I don't expect people who are 5 or 8 in a shop, each of them to come with a machine, a laptop, a printer, and all that detail. I only expect them to have that small gadget because it uses small paper, and the paper, that whole roll is about 2,000, which can serve as many clients as possible. Because it's not cost effective for one to print on an A4 an e-invoice when you've bought things worth 5,000. It doesn't make sense. So I am also bringing it on board for my clients in the informal sector, saying, Chikubo, you just hold your gadget.
Okay.
I come transact. What's your tin?
Gives
At the
you.
end of the day,
Can I buy it elsewhere? And I don't buy it from...
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we have, there are reasons why we have those gadgets with an accredited vendor.
Okay, so I can
because
just buy
a vendor, we sign an MOU with the vendor. We don't want you to use a gadget that is not relaying data to us.
Okay.
That is making bypass of some transactions. That is tampered.
Now, I know you have
with.
reasons. Don't give us the reasons why
there
you
are
don't
many
do it.
reasons
But
that I wouldn't.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Exactly.
Don't tell us the reasons. I very much agree with you, because if you allowed us to buy our own gadgets and equipment,
that would be a mess.
we would really
because
buy
how
them
will I
and
control it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You talked about e-invoicing, I think, for petrol stations also. You talked about that.
Exactly, because when you look at a petrol station, there are items that are vatable and there are those that are not vatable. When I look at the fuel, that's the petrol, the diesel, the kerosene, that does not attract VAT because it's not vatable. But when I look at other items like lubricants, the oils, they are vatable. So it depends on what you have bought. Because what we did with the Ifrs system, we embedded the law, the VAT law, onto that system. So the system feels and knows this particular item is standard rated, and therefore it has to pick VAT. Then maybe another item is 0 rated, it won't. Then maybe one is exempted. It's one that would have picked VAT, but the fact that it was exempted, still it will not pick that same tax.
Okay.
So the system fails. Once you did your configurations well after registration, then you're good to go.
Okay.
The system will know that this item does not pick 18%.
Okay, and what are the requirements of registering for e-invoicing?
The requirements is one, having a TIN.
Okay.
And secondly, if you have, if you're VAT registered, it is mandatory for you to use. If you're not VAT registered, it is still optional. You could register for Ifrs, you could leave it. But the reason why we put that window there, you will find some clients that are not VAT registered are supplying entities that are VAT registered, especially those that supply supermarkets. I'll come and supply you G-nuts, I'll supply you these small things. But you haven't reached the level of VAT registration, but you're supplying an entity
that is VAT
registered. So that entity, what it will ask for, you either give me an e-invoice or you give me an e-receipt. Because when you supply an e-invoice, it implies that there is VAT as a tax component. But e-receipt, there won't be any VAT. Because ultimately, if it is me pushing it out, who is not VAT registered, I'll push out an e-receipt. So that is what I expect this supplier of a supermarket who is not VAT registered to at least get on board and register for Ifrs voluntarily. Because the type of clients they have are pushing them in that direction. And once you do not adhere to it, that means you won't be able to transact with that client.
You'll be running out of business.
Exactly.
Okay. Of course, from, you say July 2020? When you rolled out Ifrs.
Yes.
What could be some of these benefits, and what are some of these things that you've looked to and said from 2020 to where we are today, we're just going to make 2 years, this is what you've seen Ifrs do for you as a game changer in our revenue collections?
The first thing that Ifrs did for us when we had registered, one, we were able to tap into more revenues, implying that the declarations changed. To somebody who was declaring lesser figures, they had to declare the right figures at the end of the day. Because if I'm dealing with you and I insist I need an e-invoice, then automatically once you initiate it in the system, I am getting it back end. So at the end of the day, they have to declare the right.
There will be no under declarations.
Exactly. The under declarations will be minimal from time to time. That is one plus we have got. And the second plus we have got is the illicit trade. We have tried to reduce it.
Sure.
Because somebody will smuggle and bring items on the market. But if I tell you, please insist on getting an e-invoice, once they don't give it to you, that means in your return, that credit will not be accepted. So it pushes you to deal with somebody authentic. So indirectly, I am pushing illicit trade out of the picture because you will insist on a document that will actually help you when you are also returning. And maybe the other thing I'm looking at is a refund. we had a lot of fictitious refund claims coming in. So at the end of the day, when it is not supported by a physicalized document, then I don't know how it came in. Because you can't do business alone. You must have dealt with somebody. And who is that? If I expect you to be claiming via that transaction, equally I expect somebody else to have reflected it.
Sure.
Then what happened along the way if I'm not seeing a corresponding transaction? So at the end of the day, we are trying to, on one end, minimize, because when I minimize my refund claims, the payouts, I'm maximizing the revenue. So at the end of the day, it is creating revenue sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Penalties for non-compliance to Ifrs?
Definitely, we have harsh penalties.
Very harsh.
Yes.
Okay.
Failure to issue a physicalized document. Yet you have to, you're among the mandated clients, the VAT registered clients. The penalty is 400 currency points. And a currency point is 20,000.
So it's
that is a good 8 million. Just one failure to issue, when I get a transaction, a receipt that is not, an invoice that is not fiscalized, and I know it's coming from Uganda and Entities Limited, then I ask Uganda, what happened? You're VAT registered. Didn't you know? I've taken you through this. Why do you issue this instead of a fiscalized document? That's 8 million. And when I come back and get another one tomorrow, it is the same explanation. So I am trying to see that you do not do it again. That is one. We also have a penalty of tampering with the device. Now we have the devices, but tampering with a device. You're tampering
to readjust them.
Exactly, to whatever suits what you want to what you want it to do. Then we still have a penalty there of about 300 currency points. And I told you my currency point is 20 million.
That's the law.
Exactly.
That's the law.
So ultimately we have penalties. And even on the other side of the digital tracking solution, we have penalties. Because we didn't talk about them. But they need to know. If I find you in possession of unstamped gazetted items.
And I think we can't go without saying them. Let's even just end with those, because we have about 2 or 3 minutes. Let's talk about the penalties for non-compliance to the DTS.
If I find you in possession of a gazetted item that is unstamped, it's 50 million. 50 million.
How much is my capital? You don't care.
Million. So it is you to make an analysis. Does it make sense to bring this unstamped item in my business?
Be penalized
yes,
50
I have
million
a 50
shillings?
million in case they get me. Or I need to insist on one that is stamped when I'm purchasing.
What's
So
the cost of stamping?
The cost of stamping, because we have different rates for stamping.
Okay.
For example, if I'm talking about soda, it's about 15 shillings.
15 shillings
Yes,
per
if
bottle.
I'm talking about bottled water is about 15. If I'm talking about soda, it's about 17. When I'm talking about beer, beer is about 40, around there. They have different costs.
Okay,
cost
different
per stamp.
products.
Exactly, for different
because
products.
they sell differently.
Exactly, they sell
water sells
differently.
different, soda sells different, beer sells different.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the cost is different.
Okay.
So it depends upon how much you can produce or how much you're going to import. Multiply by the cost of the stamp. That's the reason why we tell you make a forecast to SICPA so that it can organize those stamps there. Then by the time you need them, they're available for you. You just make an order, make a payment. Then once that is done, it goes through our system. Then you get an alert from the vendor, and the vendor basically calls you to pick them.
Have you penalized any? Don't tell me who they are. It's just a yes or no.
Definitely we have.
You have.
We have.
And
because when I talk about enforcement measures, they can't go without penalizing. That's the reason they are there. That is the stick. The carrot is what I am doing.
They've not.
As I talk, I educate, I handhold you, I create awareness. But definitely we have deadlines. Because we can't do an activity without a deadline. Once we put deadlines and probably you don't adhere to them, then my enforcement team comes in. And that is the stick that comes with the penalties.
Okay.
Yes.
Final message to Ugandans?
Final message to Ugandans, I would like to thank Ugandans for having walked the journey with us for the last 30 years, for having given us the taxes, appreciated us in whatever way that has been, supported us, done these businesses. I would like to thank you very much. And secondly, to remind Ugandans that filing period is about now. If you're registered for VAT, pay as you earn, local excise duty, these are monthly returns we expect from you. Kindly send them through withholding, send them through before the 15th of the month elapses, because once it elapses, it will call for a penalty. But we'd like to thank you very much as Ugandans, because you are the reason we exist. Once you don't open shop, once you don't do that business, definitely I'll have nowhere to collect. Thank you very much. God bless you, for God and my country.
Well, I can't thank you I can't thank you enough, but thank you for having allowed to join me in studios, Miss Hafsa Seguia. She's a tax expert from the Uganda Revenue Authority, and of course, been here with us this morning to educate us on these very important products that URM is handling and working on, the DTS and the Ifrs. We thank you so much, and we just ask and request that next time we still need more education on taxes. Please allow invitation, come back to studios, talk to us, and educate the people of Uganda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll stop it here for today. Wishing you all the best. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka. Good morning. Bye until tomorrow when we again get here for our Pan-African Friday. Blessings.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Are your children ready to learn? Schools are open. As parents and guardians,